Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Dark speaking and I've created this channel to expand on all of my thoughts that I share on Twitter, specifically in helping you become a better trader and investor. So if you're looking for precisely that, you're new to this entire cryptocurrency world, curious about investing in Bitcoin or wondering when is the best time to buy Bitcoin, then this video along with the many videos that I have in the pipe for you guys and this channel are for you. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on so you don't miss a thing. This video is very beginner friendly. In other words, you don't really need to have any advanced knowledge in trading and price action so you understand what's going on, and you certainly don't need to have any fancy indicator. We are simply going to look at Bitcoin's price from a psychological perspective, in other words, how people are perceiving it. Now that we've got this out of the way, let's go back historically to establish a framework that we can base our analysis and understanding of the market on. In order to do that, we are simply going to ignore everything that happened prior to 2017. And the reason is quite simple: context. When you are investing, it's very important to keep the context of the market in mind. Prior to the crypto boom in 2017, we didn't have enough smart and big money investing in the crypto world and in Bitcoin. While in post 2018 and specifically in 2020, 2021, we had massive players entering the market, whether it was companies such as Tesla and MicroStrategy, hedge funds, and we even heard of banks that wanted to enter the crypto world. Now, if we look at Bitcoin's price historically, we notice that Bitcoin did an impressive rally and topped a little less than $20,000 at the end of the crypto bull run in 2017. We retraced to the $5,000 level and went a little bit underneath it in 2018 and at the beginning of 2019. In summer of 2019, we rallied towards the $10,000 area, where we pretty much stopped around the $13,000 area. But for simplicity's sake, we're going to ignore everything that happened in this area above $10,000. And then during the March crash, we revisited the $5,000 area. And it's worth noting that in this time, pretty much the entire global market was in panic mode, and a lot of assets globally retraced to high time frame support. Now notice, while I was exploring this entire Bitcoin price history, I was strictly thinking and talking in whole numbers. And unless you're an expert or on your way to becoming one, then this is all what we should really care about at this point. If you ask anyone, they'll either be scared or thrilled when the price of their favorite asset reaches a certain whole number. I'm sure you heard people say, "Wow, I bought at $10,000." Yes, I've sold at $20,000 at the top in 2017. $50,000 might be a little bit of a stretch for me to buy. $100,000 is my next target for Bitcoin, 1 million, 10 million, etc., etc. You kind of get the idea that people like to think in whole numbers in general. So where does this leave us? It pretty much leaves us with whole numbers. But there's always more to the story. Notice how we found support at the $5,000 level when we retraced back in March. And then we had a little rally in the next couple of months where we retested the $10,000 zone. We breached it, reestablished a floor and support in this area. We rallied toward $20,000, where pretty much people started panicking because it was a high time frame resistance. And there's also the psychological number $20,000. We breached it and we resumed upward towards $40,000, where we found a little bit of resistance around here in January 2021. We breached it and we are still trending upwards. Now, if we look at the price pattern in this area throughout this entire area and this entire time, and assuming that price has the same pattern, then we notice that price is finding resistance at twice the price it found support at. So a $5,000 support leads to a $10,000 resistance. Once we flip that into support, then the next resistance is at $20,000. Once we flip $20,000 as support, then the next resistance was at $40,000. And assuming that the price pattern remains the same and we've established a certain floor around the $40,000 area, then the next resistance should be around the $80,000 mark. So the main question is, when is the best time to buy? And the real answer is no one actually knows, and there's no accurate way to answer this question. What I can do is help you establish a framework that you can base your analysis on, and the understanding of the market and your understanding of when do you want to buy. In order to do that, we are going to focus on three main points. Number one, you need to establish the time frame that you want to work with, and this highly depends on what type of trader you are. If you are a long-term or mid-term investor, it's highly different. If you are a long-term investor, you'll want to be looking at the monthly and occasionally at the weekly, and you certainly want to look at the 3-month and the yearly charts. If you are a midterm investor, then the weekly and occasionally the daily should suffice. Now, all of these timeframes are available at your favorite charting platform. Here I am using TradingView. You can find the link to subscribe or to sign up for free below, where in their free version, they include all of the timeframes that I just mentioned. 2, once you've established the time frame that you want to work with and you have established what kind of investor you are, you'll want to wait for price to reach and react to the level that you are eyeing. So, and it's very important to mention here that the higher the time frame that you are working with, the less you care about catching the exact bottom, and we'll discuss this later on why this is less important in a bit. And number 3, you pretty much need to pull the trigger and buy the asset that you are eyeing, in this case, Bitcoin. These are the general tips that are applicable to Bitcoin and really any other asset that you want to invest in. So in any asset, whether it was gold, silver, or you are in the crypto world and you want to buy certain altcoins, you are pretty much going to establish the same exact framework in order for you to invest. So in Bitcoin's case, you want a retest of one of the support levels that I just mentioned, and you need to wait for confirmation. By confirmation, I mean one or multiple candle closes, depending on your time frame, above support. Now, for those that are unaware or have little understanding of support resistance areas, in the simplest of terms, support areas are zones where buyers are more likely to exist and price is unlikely to go below, while resistance is the complete opposite of support. It's an area where you have a high number of sellers out there, and price is unlikely to breach and retest upper levels than this particular zone. If you are adopting a midterm investing approach, in other words, you want to hold for a few weeks or a couple of months, make a quick profit and get out, you'll want to wait for a retest of the $40,000 level, see what kind of reaction you get there, and then you pull the trigger and buy, or you don't buy. If we dip deeper than $40,000, then the next area of interest is around the $30,000 mark. This area is of particular interest for me because it is the midpoint between 20,000 and 40,000 and hold a significance as it is. Once we go here and you see what kind of reaction do we get around the zone, then we'll make the decision whether to buy here or we wait until we retest the $20,000 area. If you are a long-term investor, then I highly advise against buying at random numbers, assuming that Bitcoin will keep on trending upwards. So I've heard a lot of people say it doesn't really matter whether you buy at 50 or at 80 or 100K, as long as Bitcoin is going at 1 million. And this is a mistake that a lot of beginners do, which is taking the market for granted. So if you are a long-term investor, I would wait until price retests one of the major high time frame levels. I would scale in, for example, at $40,000, $30,000, and $20,000, average in at a good price. Ultimately, I want my biggest position to be around the $20,000 mark, because it's very important to see what kind of reaction do we get there, and it's the previous all-time high. The most important assumption that we should have once the price reaches this level is that $20,000 should be established as a support, and that we are still in a bull market. For those adopting a long-term approach, it is very important to eliminate all the noise, hence the higher time frames. And it's very important, whether you are midterm, long-term, or short-term investor, that you do not pour all your money into one asset. I'll be discussing different investment strategies in the future, so make sure you turn your notifications on so you don't miss them. But for now, it really doesn't matter if we revisited the $20,000 area and then we dipped, for example, let's say to $16,000, $17,000 zone, and then we went right back upwards. And the reason is quite simple. Once you go on a very large time frame, then a few percentages or a few $1,000s doesn't really affect your overall projected profit and loss in the long run. So when we are talking about a multi-year plan or a multi-month plan, then the daily, weekly, and even the monthly price fluctuations that happen shouldn't really affect your long-term goals, as long as nothing really radical happens. And by radical, I mean that Bitcoin pretty much breaks below $20,000 decisively and pretty much goes below $5,000. If price goes there, I would be more careful when investing in Bitcoin, and I would actually wait for a few weeks and probably a few months to see if we found some sort of strength here in order to pick up and resume upwards. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it insightful, don't forget to like it and share it with your peers. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions, then please leave them in the comment section or drop me a message on my Twitter. All the links are available in the description below. I am more than happy to answer them. Until next time, enjoy your week, guys.